All right, guys. Today is the 18th of November, 2020. So happy Wednesday. And we're going to talk about Korea, and we're going to cover large swaths of Korean history today. We're going to talk about its early history, its independence, its annexation, and we're going to kind of move quickly through Korean history. I don't want to get bogged down in it, but I do want to kind of introduce it to you, just because it plays a huge role in our modern world today, especially with North Korea, right? And so to do now, I asked you, in your, survey for the morning to find out if you're here or not. Which country tried to dominate mainland Asia? And throughout history, that's always been Japan, right? And kind of the giveaway is mainland Asia. The Japanese, as an island country, had invaded, looking for resources, and they play a big role in mainland Asian history. So we have a couple key terms, annexation being one of them, tributary state, and then hermit kingdom. Annexation is adding to something larger, and in this regard, we're talking about adding new territory to control of a city or another country or a state. A tributary state is a state that is obedient to a more powerful neighbor, and they send tribute, some kind of gift of wealth or gold or maybe produce or slaves, something to keep its larger, stronger neighbor happy with them. And then the last one is a hermit kingdom. It's a country that willfully cuts itself off from pretty much everybody. And that's both a physical, real cutoff, as in you can't access the land, but it's also a metaphorical one where, you don't get news there, you don't get information from inside of the country, or excuse me, from outside of the country in, or news from inside the country doesn't escape out either. Okay. So in early Korean history, there were three kingdoms, and they were unified under the name Goryeo in 912. So we're talking 1100 years ago. Goryeo, right, becomes known as Korea, right? So you can see the evolution of the word there with the way I'm pronouncing it. And eventually a revolution put the Goryeo under the control of a kingdom known as the Joseon people in 1392. The Joseon Empire was a tributary state to China, so they were sending China gold to keep China happy for over 400 years until the mid-1800s. In the 1590s, they twice defeated the Japanese, who were trying to annex Korea, and the Japanese at the time were led by Toyotomi Hideyoshi. In the 1620s and 1630s, they were invaded by the northern Chinese people of the Manchus, who we've talked about before. And aside from this, though, these little hiccups, when you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years of history, they're quite small. For almost 500 years, the Joseon Empire ruled over a very peaceful, but also very hermit kingdom land. Right? They were very cut off from the rest of the world. This is the temple, Gwangyang-buk, in Seoul. I took this picture. This is the main temple of the Joseon Empire in central Korea. Well, what is central Seoul now? From 1897 to 1910, the Joseon Empire became known as the Korean Empire. It aimed to modernize the military, the economy, the laws of the land. And in 1904, during the Russo-Japanese War, Japan invades and occupies Korea, and they will remain part of occupied Japan. Korea will remain occupied by Japan for over 40 years, up until the end of the Second World War. All right. In 1910, the Korean Empire, as I was saying, is annexed, quote, willfully annexed itself to Japan. They just loved so much how to be a part of Japan, but in reality, they were just being threatened. Japan's occupation of Korea was brutal. The Japanese stated goal was to eliminate the Korean people, their culture, its language, its history, basically make sure that what was Korea never exists again. Right? Forced labor was quite common, and millions died in some form of forced labor camp or a concentration camp. Right? And then just a little preview of what's going to happen. The map kind of gives it away. In 1945, Korea is divided between a North and a South Korea, one communist, one capitalist. What do you think is going to happen from that? All right, that's all we have for today. You're going to read your book, and that's all I got. Have a great day.